Well, good morning, church. Just takes me a little bit to to catch my breath after, moving around. First of all, I just want to say that we're beyond grateful and thankful, my family and I, for all the support that you've been giving us. From the food, to the text messages, to the prayers. We're beyond grateful. And, I just wanted to start out with a little testimony. Those of you that didn't know, I was admitted to Rio Grande Regional on July 2nd and was released on the 24th of July. Was there a little bit over 3 weeks, and it was probably the most scariest time of my life that I can possibly imagine. And because one thing is that you don't hear too much about this disease of COVID, is that you're basically all alone in a room 24 hours a day. If you can have the blinds open, you can see the sun, but you're just alone. You're just all by yourself. And thank God I was able to FaceTime with my parents, with my brothers, and my wife. But it's not the same. You just get so detached and so alone. And it was about like a week and a half that I was in there, not knowing what was going on. The doctors were trying their best, especially one doctor. He was a godsend. And everybody at Rio Grande Regional Hospital, I believe they're all heroes there. Not once did they treat me wrong. Everybody there treated me with respect, especially love, compassion. I can't explain the gratitude to that hospital and their staff, because they're basically risking their lives as well, treating a whole floor of COVID patients. And my hat's off to them, and my heart and all my love to those people there. I may never see them again, but they forever impacted my life, because of them and God's grace. I'm here today. But it was about a week and a half into being there, and we just finished chatting, our family. We prayed for my mom, and I was going to sleep, and before going to sleep, I spoke to God, and with a heavy heart, and I just said, God, I need to know that you're still with me. I need to know that I'm not alone. I need to know that things are going to get better. And I think I dozed off for a little bit, and then I hear, you know how Messenger has a little tone, the little ding or whatever you want to call it. And usually once I'm asleep, I don't hear anything, just knock out. But for some reason this one was like echoing, super loud. So I look at it, and it's 12:02. My brother sent me a song, and I thought it was him trying to call me. So I'm there pushing the button, half asleep, trying to see if it's him. And then the song starts to play, and I've heard that song 1,000 times from it's a Jeremy Camp, Walk By, but for some reason that song had so much meaning, so much power. As the song began to play, God started to speak to me in my heart, and I began to cry. And not just a cry, but like something I've never experienced in my life, like from the most inner heart of me, like if it was just flowing from deep within my soul, and it was coming out. And I just remember telling God that, I still believe, and I still believe in you, no matter what the situation is. And I began to cry and just weep before God. I will never forget it. I was lying on my right side, and I was looking out the window. It was nighttime already, and I remember just weeping and weeping. But my tears, they just felt, I can't explain the tears. Like, usually when you cry, you can feel all the stickiness, and you feel all, you feel weird when you're crying. Cause I hardly cry. But this one felt like if it was just purified water flowing down my face. And I felt God just cleansing me, from all that loneliness, that heartache, the not knowing, putting all this I don't want to call it unbelief or doubt, but when you're in that situation and you have nobody to turn to, and you're by yourself, and you cry out to God, and He answers like that, and I'll never forget that feeling of God just saturating that room, because the nurses they come in around midnight, and the CNAs come in just to take your blood pressure and stuff. But for some reason, that whole room felt like if it was in a bubble, and God's presence was there with me. And since that day, it didn't get better right away. I still struggled. The doctors, they were contemplating to do certain things to me because I wasn't improving, and I was on a downhill slope. But since that night, God turned things around, and I'm forever grateful that God still speaks, God still loves, and He will answer. I may not hear Him audibly, you may not hear Him audibly, but He will send those to answer your prayer. And I just want to address that. My mom, she fought, and she fought. But, God has His reasons why things ended up the way they did. And your pastor, she loved you all deeply, deeply, deeply. I think she would be beyond moved right now to see how the church has responded to take care of us. One of the things my mom would always speak about to me and my brother is that you have to love regardless. You have to love regardless of the character. You have to love regardless of how they treat you. And my mom lived that way every day. She was like a beacon of just love. I can't picture life without her anymore. But I'm so glad that God did give me her for 36 years of my life. And my mom was a mom to all. I'll never forget that. Some of my friends would come over when I was younger, and man, she would treat them like if they were my brother, showering them with love, hugs and kisses. And I'd be like, to me that was normal, but my friends would be like, they would go home with this huge smile, and they would end up telling me, they'd be like, man, you're lucky to have a mom like that. But to me it was just normal because that's what she would always do for us. And the whole point of this is just to remind you that God still exists, and God still loves, and God's grace is something we can't take advantage of. Every day that I was in that room, and every time that I would feel like if I'm slipping away, I was reminded that you gotta fight, you gotta keep pushing forward, and that God's strength and God's grace was upon me that day, those days. Just want you guys to be encouraged, most of all. We're all hurting as a church for the passing of my mom. But I know right now she's already walking the streets of gold. She's probably doing everything she would always tell me she wanted to do when she gets to heaven. And church, I don't think there's any way we can ever repay you. From the bottom of our hearts, you know, we are beyond blessed to have you guys in our lives. There's so much to speak about, there's so much to say. But at the end of the day, it just comes back around to that we just love you guys. I wish I can go into detail about other stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just about Jesus. There's nothing else anymore. You know, your faith is all you have. And when I was battling this COVID, I mean, I'm still struggling a little bit. I still got this oxygen I gotta be on. I still gotta do some things to get my lungs better. But by faith, you know, we go forward and we continue and we fight the good fight and we run with it. And I just want to say that I love you guys from church. I love you all that have been keeping in contact with me. And God bless you guys. Love you.
I guess tell them that we're signing them.
Okay. And my dad says that, pastor says that we're going to be signing off already. And, you know.
Tell them tomorrow I'll be texting them in the afternoon.
And please keep an eye out for some text messages from my dad. We're going to be probably doing the funeral service sometime next week, but just keep an eye out for it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you all. God bless you guys.